How's it going, guys? So Mr. Garrett McLaren, I did a video review for him a little while ago, and one of his big issues was that his gun was walking too close to his face, so his elbows are kind of folding up a bunch. And that's something that doing the breakdown, it made me think about a little bit more. Kind of reminded me of some of the ways I've fixed it for folks in the past. And it's not like it's a problem exclusive to him. It's a problem lots of folks have, and has pretty detrimental effects on recoil control and marksmanship. So we're going to try to demonstrate how some of those work a little bit. I got my 40 cal limited gun here. That's going to illustrate the point a little bit better with the recoil. It'll make it a little bit more obvious what the differences are. All right, so I'm basically going to do doubles with my arms intentionally collapsed in, right? So my traditional arm position, the way I describe it, I get the gun as far away from my face as I can, right? I bring my shoulders back to neutral so I don't feel any tension back here in my upper neck, my shoulders, and then I'll essentially unlock my elbows so they're not facing up to the sky, right? So they're just about like this. But the gun is pretty well extended all the way out without having either this distorted forward or my elbows locked up. Right, so that's what I'm going for. The more this walks in, the more the gun is going to want to hop. And I can fix that problem through extensive training with like small grip inputs and manually returning the gun. But it's a lot more work, and it's never going to be quite as consistent as just using a mechanically consistent presentation. So I'll do it the wrong way first so you can see how that looks. Just do a little bit of doubles here. I'm going to try to bring it to right about here.
All right, here's a cutaway here. We're going to look at this a little more closely. This first example is elbows bent. You can see basically if you draw a straight line from the center of my wrist clean through to the center of my shoulder, you can see my elbows are dropped down quite a bit there if you look at the actual angle of, where this arm is facing. Okay, so watch the behavior of the gun here. If you watch this slow, you can see my actual grip pressure application is pretty much fine. The gun doesn't look like it's bucking around inside of my hand more than usual. Like the relationship of the frame to my support hand is not changing more than you'd really expect. It's not just that the front sight is flipping really high, so the gun's not shooting flat at all like this. If you watch the actual rear sight, you can see it jumps from right here all the way up to like right here. Right, so it's got about something like 2 inches of lift when you look at the actual rear sight. If you look at my forearms as another indicator, this whole unit is jumping up like this, right? And this is completely because this elbow is bent downward this way, right? So when the gun jumps, this whole elbow is able to flex and the whole gun will jump up. In order to compensate for that, I essentially have to stare at the spot I want to hit and manually push the gun back down like at my shoulder to get the gun to return back down to the spot. And you can see it's just in general, it's way more work than if I just basically hold the gun still in place using structure and then just look at the spot and return it with only my hands. So the predictability there is not very good. You can see at the very end there, I almost pushed into the gun a little bit as well. Right. So let's compare that to the run where essentially I'm just holding the gun with my hands. If I look again at this, again, I'll admit that the target is a little bit lower. I'm using a shot basically at the head box in the first target and the chest in the second, so this angle is going to look a touch different. But again, if you draw a straight line from my wrist clean through to my shoulder, you can see this is quite a bit more straight. Right? My shoulder is stretched forward a little bit, I'll admit that, but we'll watch the actual behavior of the gun here. And remember, the actual grip pressure application is the same. You see that this actual grip itself is not perfect, right? If you watch again, right here especially, you see watch this takedown lever and compare it to where my support hand is. You can see this gun is moving inside my support hand a little bit because my grip is not clamped on quite good enough. I'm using a legacy plastic frame with a 40 cal gun to illustrate this point really well. I didn't do any training with this prior. I just wanted to show what the recoil was going to do. But you can see this grip is not perfect, but the actual behavior of the gun is much more tidy.
Right. We're going to break this down using coach's eye so you can see the actual gun motion, but this is the first group, right, where I'm trying to aim for this actual letter A in the head. In a lot of cases, I'm pushing down. In some cases, my support hand is pushing the gun over a little bit, right? Just overall, I'm having to do a lot of work to get the same job done as I would doing this. Present the gun all the way out, grip only with this one hand, basically shoot when the sight comes back down. I'm not taking the time to really steer it around. I'm just reacting when I see the green where I want it. So that's the power of this, basically this presentation consistency. I see a lot of folks, I don't know if maybe it's just because the guns are heavy, right? They want to use their chest and their biceps to kind of hold the gun in place. It's also aggravated when people shoot a lot of carry optics, I think, because the sight alignment doesn't change as the gun gets closer to your face. So it's definitely something to think about. If you see the gun hopping and recoiler, you notice your kind of arms are walking in over time, especially when you're moving around or doing something uncomfortable. That's a pretty big issue that you should take a look at.
Just to further reiterate this one more time, we're gonna look at the top view, essentially, right? And the side, and basically the side view. So if you're looking at it topographically, right? If essentially, you had a drone over your head and you're looking at this from the top down, correct? We see this is the gun here. You see your wrists are somewhere back here. The arm comes straight back to the shoulder, right? With more or less a straight line. Your elbows are somewhere in here. This might bend slightly out this way. What we don't want to see is this come way out in a big exaggerated arc, more like a diamond, right? Where your elbows are out here. This base is going to naturally look a little bit wider or look a little bit shorter. It might look more like this if you have very short arms. Because of course, right, this distance here is going to be naturally shorter. So this base of this triangle is going to be quite a bit wider, right? But what we don't want to see is basically pushing your elbows needlessly up high to basically bend this wrist, right? So if you look at this straight on, if you're looking at it from your first person perspective, sometimes like your wrist comes in here and it has to bend like way out and around to accommodate this elbow being way high up, right? We don't want to do that. That might have been a little too complicated, but from the top down, it's going to look like this. From the side, if you watch this in a video, right, we want to see wrist here, shoulder here, pretty much a straight line. Elbow is somewhere on the way. Sight is here, eye is here. There's a straight line to here. This unit here, this whole shoulder might be tipped slightly forward based on your stance, but we shouldn't see like, your neck comes in here and then there's a big swoop back with your shoulder where your shoulder distends way forward. What we don't want to see talking about this arm position is the wrist here, elbow here, shoulder here, where there's this big exaggerated bend where this whole unit is going to jump upward. You'll see that motion in your forearm. You'll see it on your rear sight where the whole gun will hop up as opposed to just flip at the front sight itself, but the rear sight will stay in place. All right, so this is what I want you to be thinking about. Top down, straight arms compared to bent arms, straight arms compared to bent arms. We don't want these joints locked out. We just want them to be neutral and relaxed so the gun behaves well, relying on just structure and not specific grip inputs that are fairly unreliable. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. I'm thinking I'm probably going to have to do a part 2 video to explain a little bit more of the nuances I almost got into about the wrist locking and sort of how your hands meet on the gun and how that works with this specific positioning. But overall, I think this was good. Let me know if this is helpful in the comments. Like and share, etc. Thank you.